So over the past several years, I've completed nearly 8,500 client check-ins with my fat loss students. And I think with that comes just a lot of raw and real data that I've been exposed to in terms of what actually drives men in their fat loss journey, but most importantly, what is holding most men back when it comes to their fat loss. And in this video, I want to break down for you the 7 most common and most detrimental fat loss mistakes that you might be doing right now. All right, so nearly 8,500 client check-ins later, and at this point, I have a ton of data that I can work with here. So I've actually formulated the most common and the most routinely committed 7 biggest fat loss mistakes that I've seen with my clients. Again, this is backed by nearly 8,500 client check-ins over the past few years, all right? So, fat loss mistake number 1 is simply just not tracking your calorie and your protein intake. The reason why this is important is because if you want to lose body fat, you need to be eating in what's called a caloric deficit. And what that means is you must be consuming fewer calories than you are expending. And if you're just eyeballing your meals, if you're just trying to, air quotes, eat a little bit healthier, you really have no way of knowing what your actual caloric intake looks like. So you have to commit to actually tracking the intake and commit to the raw data and the numbers to ensure that you are in fact consuming fewer calories than you're burning. And the reason why I wanted to add protein to this equation, calories and protein, is because protein is a very important macronutrient when it comes to fat loss. Number 1, protein is going to help you essentially burn more calories simply by digesting it. There is a higher what's called thermic effect when digesting protein. Number 2, protein has a high satiety index, which means it will also help you feel full for longer. And then number 3, probably the most important one, protein helps you build more muscle, and as we know, the more muscle you have, the more calories you burn at rest. Fat loss mistake number 2 is not lifting weights consistently. I've seen a lot of men on my news feed on Facebook, on Instagram, that jump onto these diets, okay? They lose a ton of weight, which is great. I mean, congrats, good for you. However, what ends up happening is if you only focus on dieting down and just losing body fats, you will fall into what's called skinny fat syndrome. And what this is where you basically look thin or skinny in your clothes, but when that shirt comes off, you're still soft, you're still flabby, and you're still weak. And in my experience, that is not a look that most men are striving for, okay? So if you truly want to lose body fat, but also look chiseled, you have to make sure that you are building adequate muscles in the key areas to give your body that proper shape and that proper definition. And the other half of this is the reason why building muscle is also very important for fat loss itself is because, again, the more muscle mass you have, the more calories you burn at rest. So what that means is if you lose most of your body fat and if you double your muscle mass at the same time, you will effectively be burning more calories all day long and even while you sleep, making it that much easier to torch off that stubborn fat. Fat loss mistake number 3 is not getting in 10,000 steps per day. And I want to make sure I'm clear on this. There's nothing magic about the number 10,000 steps. That is just a simple standardization we use for a daily step goal. To be honest, if you're landing anywhere between 8 to 10K a day for steps, that is more than enough. And the reason why we do favor a consistent step goal is because getting in adequate steps is a really easy way to help burn additional calories without stimulating hunger and without causing any unnecessary fatigue on that nervous system. So it's a really easy way to simply just get a little bit more activity in throughout the day. And a side benefit that, in my opinion, this is the most important benefit of steps, is there is a direct relation, an inverse relationship with the more steps you get in a day and a decrease in your all-cause mortality. So what that means is somebody who gets 1,000 steps a day compared to somebody who gets 10,000 steps a day, the guy who gets only 1K a day in steps has a higher likelihood of all-cause mortality, meaning of essentially death. So if you want to live longer, a truly long, healthy, disease-free life, and not just look great naked, getting steps is the best way to do that. Fat loss mistake number 4 is not getting enough high-quality sleep. I always say that the best performance enhancing drug in the world is consistent 8 quality hours of sleep. When you're sleeping at night, your body is going through a ton of recovery processes, not just with your brain, but with your body as well, okay? And if you are chronically deprived of sleep, which can be classified as 6 hours or less on a consistent basis, you're going to have a decrease in that natural testosterone production. You're going to have an increase in those stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. You're going to have an increase in that fasting blood glucose. Basically, if you're getting less than 7 to 8 hours of sleep on a consistent basis, you can pretty much guarantee that it's going to be more of an uphill battle. There will be some additional friction when it comes to losing fats and building muscle and just feeling good and feeling healthy. Fat loss mistake number 5, and these next few are more intrinsic mistakes. Number 5 is simply just not being honest with yourself. Are you truly committed? Are you truly in this for the long haul? Are you ready to make this not just something that you do when it's convenient for you, but are you prepared to make this part of who you are, a true lifestyle change, okay? Are you making the time to get in your workouts? Are you making the time to prepare healthy meals and track your intake? Are you making the time to get in your steps? If you are not prepared to put in the work and do what it takes, you're always going to be spinning your wheels, wondering why you're not seeing results. So you have to look in the mirror and just be fully honest with yourself and ask yourself, are you ready to do what it takes? Fat loss mistake number 6 is not being held accountable. It's one thing to hold yourself accountable, which I think we can all do to some degree, but when it comes to something like a true dedicated fat loss transformation, you need to be held accountable by a third party. And this doesn't have to be a coach. This can be a group of friends. This can be your spouse. This could be anybody else on the outside who can give you objective feedback and hold you accountable to your goals. Because the truth is, if you could do this on your own, you've done it by now. Last but not least, fat loss mistake number 7 is not being open-minded. The truth is, if you're stuck right now, it's because you've been operating on information that is not accurate, okay? You need to have an open mind and understand that somebody else may very well hold the answers and hold the solution to your problem. So if you are set in your ways and stuck in your ways and feel like you already know what to do or you already have all the answers, there's a high chance that you are gonna stay stuck for a very long time. So you need to open your mind and be open to the idea of different avenues and different methods when it comes to losing fat, to building muscle, and looking great naked. So based on nearly 8,500 client check-ins over the past several years, these were the top 7 fat loss mistakes I've seen in my career. And I'd love to hear from you. Maybe drop below in the comments your favorite mistake and maybe just your number 1 takeaway in terms of what you're gonna take from this video and how you're gonna implement it. All right, so thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.